Good morning, everybody. Hello, my name's Amanda Chadwick, and I am here on behalf of the CIPD HR Inform. Today's webinar is about conflict resolution, and the detail contained within this webinar is based on GB employment legislation. Clients in the jurisdictions of Northern Ireland, the Republic of Ireland, Jersey, Guernsey, and the Isle of Man are asked to please contact the advice service to obtain the information relevant to your jurisdiction. The objectives of today's webinar are to gain practical advice on identifying and recognising conflict, managing workplace conflict, assessing the suitability of mediation and risks of bad management. I would like to point out straight away to everybody, don't try scribbling all the notes down, because these slides will be available to you after the actual event. What we also have to remember with workplace conflict, common causes of conflict at work do include differences in personalities. So if we think now that if you're born in the Western world today, you will live to be 100, hopefully, if you live it the right way. And so we're going to have lots of different ages working within businesses across the UK, and lots of people come from different backgrounds or cultures and have their own beliefs, values. A lack of understanding or acceptance of these differences really can cause contention and drive a wedge between people who usually work well together. Now, I would find common ground with every single person I work with just to get on with them, because we spend an awful lot of time at work. However, there will be conflict at some point in business life. There's also differences in styles of working, where there's different people that expect others to work the same way as them, and they don't respect the values of other people the way they work. It might be miscommunication, it might be levels of support, it could be poor customer service, could be just a poorly organised workplace or poor management. So, excuse me, there's lots of different areas of conflict within the workplace. So identifying and recognising conflict. So what is it? It's any situation in which your concerns or desires different from those of another person. Conflict can arise in nearly every workplace interaction. Expressing differences in preferences, points of view, or values are all conflict, but it doesn't always have to be negative. Excuse me. Constructive and positive conflict can benefit to the workplace. It may help to challenge long-standing views, generate new ideas, develop alternative ways to solve problems, increase awareness of different values, or create a respectful and diverse environment. Now, I always talk about speaking to your staff and enabling your staff to speak. They are the best asset for your business. They're the cogs of the business. And if those cogs are failing, then the business will fail, productivity will fail. And as I said, lots of different people working together now, and discrimination and harassment, for example, it could be treating others unkindly due to their beliefs. It could be their qualities or disabilities. We shouldn't be tolerating it, and it's debilitating and also upsetting the person involved. So that could be a serious ongoing conflict. It could be something to do with the poor management. So we might have a really bad manager. And actually, at all my seminars where I'm speaking at, I talk about going back to basics. And I think that we need to, in HR, look at the policies we've got, look at the procedures we've got. Have we gone overboard? Are there too many of them? Let's go back to basics. Let's get our handbooks in order so that we're confident enough to deal with poor management or poor staff. And we need strong leaders out there. Not only can they manage, but they can lead people with direction and goals, and therefore motivate, which can help with any bitterness towards management or dissatisfaction. So, these are things to look out for. Negative conflict that is not encouraged or limited may lead to relationship breakdowns, personal attacks or bullying, a disrespectful culture, isolation and segregation in teams, and gossip and rumours as well. So we need to handle it straight away. And as I say, nip it in the bud. So in order to manage conflict appropriately, you will need to recognise when this can occur. So common areas that give rise to conflict include a colleague in different points of view. I like to listen to people's points of view. As I said, we have totally different people working together, different age groups. Somebody might have a fresh idea. Let's listen to what people have to say. Why don't we do employee surveys to find out what our staff think of their manager, think of the way we work, or maybe even think about changing the processes we have, the procedures we have, but also changing even the equipment we use. So colleagues having different points of view can result in conflict. Communication between employees. Somebody could be unhappy even with a contract of employment. If people are left in the dark about their role or don't really feel like it's accommodated for, valued, they might feel angry at management. So let's keep an eye on the contract of employment, but especially let's keep an eye on the job description. So proximity and reliance on others. So you get two people working together where somebody's unreliable and letting the other person down. So let's have an open discussion about poor management or poorly organised work. So even the design makes a huge difference to people's behaviour and comfort. And people are more likely to target frustration at a person rather than an object or a place that they work in. So let's have a look at that as well. So managers should remain aware of common signs of conflict, including a decreased teamwork and collaboration, fraught tempers, negative communication about colleagues, and pointing the finger and allocating blame to others. And what you can get is when somebody makes a negative comment and then that negative comment can grow with other people agreeing, as I said, let's nip it in the bud and work with that. Managers are there to positively manage their team, and we can all be managers, but a leader is special. So they're managing and they're leading their team to get the best out of them. And as a result, managers should act proactively if they recognise there is a workplace conflict. Work with the people, speak to the people. Waiting for a complaint to raise first could lead to conflict worsening and being more difficult to resolve in the future. So let's deal with it straight away. Let's speak to our staff, let's have surveys. So initial informal approach may be all that's needed to resolve the conflict. So I've had people in teams where they work, for example, let's say with a Scottish person. Now, as you know from my previous webinars or my seminars, I'm Scottish, well, Irish, mainly Irish descent. So we get people that might make a joke. So I remember Scottish working with a team years ago, and somebody would keep going, oh, your blether, and it wasn't meant as harmful, it was meant as banter. But once was funny to the lady, the second or third time it was irritating, the fourth or fifth time she found it offensive. So let's nip that in the bud. Or even just saying to an Irish person, for example, potatoes, you know, on Celebrity Juice they use it. It's become a little bit of a catchphrase, and at first funny, and then, you know, actually it's offensive. So initial informal approach may be all that's needed to resolve the conflict, and speak to all parties to get to the bottom of the issue and seek to resolve it. And let's remember that different people communicate different ways. I was in Boots the other day picking up a prescription for my daughter, and there was a lady pharmacist who spoke to the pharmacist but didn't speak to him, prodded him with her finger, and my daughter noticed it straight away. But he might be used to the way that she communicates, but to others it might seem like it's not the great way of communicating. So it's just different. People do communicate in different ways. Some people might be more abrupt, some people might be over familiar, some people might leave things to the last minute, not the use of emails, or even too many emails as well. I've seen that, you know, where you log on like first thing in the morning, already you've had 10 emails off one particular person. So it can be overwhelming. There's certain things that we're seeing that we've never seen before, especially when it comes to technology. So speak to all parties to get to the bottom of the issue and seek to resolve it. The other thing that we're seeing, actually, talking about social media and ways of and things that are happening and occurring within the workplace, are WhatsApp groups within the workplace where, you know, you have senior managers or work colleagues setting up a WhatsApp group, and then what they're doing is they're talking about other employees and posting pictures and comments on there, and somebody whistleblows on the group. So you might want to review your policies and procedures there to talk about fact that if you do have a WhatsApp, that you shouldn't be talking about staff, you shouldn't be talking about any workplace issues, you shouldn't be posting pictures. I'm very careful of that. It's something quite new we've seen growing and growing over the past 12 months. And also videoing and taping and recording of clients, individuals and fellow employees. This leads to workplace conflict. So let's have a look at all these new things happening and let's keep ahead of the game, really. So set out expectations of both sides to agree a conclusion with minimum first. So managing conflict. So where an informal conversation has had the desired effect, you can take employees through a more formal process. So what we're doing here is we're trying to solve the issue, and what we're going to do is we're going to do a 6-step procedure. So we're going to first of all clarify the area of conflict to make it simple and easy to understand. What is it? You know, it is a vital skill. It does involve handling confrontations tactically and constructively. So we're trying to get to the bottom of it. So we need to clarify the area of conflict first of all. 2, we need to establish a common goal and then discuss methods to meet the goal, discuss any barriers to meeting the goal, agree the best way forwards, and reiterate the agreed solution and allocate responsibility. So 1, so clarify the area of conflict. So ask each party to explain their point of view as to the disagreement. Get as much information as possible so each side can understand, and ask open questions to get to the heart of the conflict, okay? So remember, you know, tension between people is quite natural. And with diverse teams, it's unlikely actually that people are going to have the same opinion or have the same shared goals. But we need teamwork in here. So we need to work with each other's differences and not against them. So when there's a clash occurring, we need to deal with it as it will halt any productivity or team workmanship. You know, so effective intervention from the managers and supervisors will help the business retain a healthy and work life, you know, work-life balance as well. So let's ask open questions and get to the heart of the conflict. So we're now going to establish a common goal. So ask each party what their desired outcome is and focus on realistic resolutions. What do both parties have in common? Use this as the goal of this process. So you may find that actually, you know, it's been something so simple that's caused this disagreement, and let's get to the root of this and let's find a common goal for both of them to get on or work together. So discuss methods to meet the goal. So ask each how they would approach meeting the common goal. Encourage interaction and get both parties to work together to discuss this. So your aim really is to resolve the conflict in a way that respects everybody's wants and needs. And, you know, some are short-lived, others are deep-seated, and these will all require different forms of intervention. So there are different types of conflict management that you could do. So things like preventative measures, so workplace changes, it might be job role changes, it might be training staff, it might be conflict resolution, and there's lots of different things to do. So encourage interaction and get both parties to work together to discuss this. So ensure all options are discussed, keep asking for additional methods until this avenue is exhausted. So the next thing you're going to do is you're going to discuss any barriers to meeting the goal. So encourages acknowledgement of the circumstances that have led to the conflict. So discuss what can be changed and what cannot be changed. So barriers in meeting the goal. So, you know, it could be something that they aren't going to get onto. It might be changing shifts. So let's have a look and let's discuss and encourage discussions about ways to get around these. So if there are any barriers. So then you're going to agree the best way forward. So ask both parties to come to a conclusion that will resolve the conflict. Resolution is aimed at preventing this type of conflict occurring in the future, and it does not have to be a perfect resolution. Instead, a solution that both parties understand and agree to follow. So number 6, reiterate the agreed solution and allocate responsibility. Ask both parties to acknowledge the agreed solution. Put this in writing. Remember, that's your defence as the employer, isn't it? That's what you're going to show if anything comes out of this, because if it's not handled in the right way and you fail, you could result in a tribunal. So we need this in writing, and we need both parties to sign the document. Reiterate the responsibility of each party to follow and maintain agreed solution to prevent similar conflict arising in the future. So, do any lessons need to be provided to wider teams? So when you're managing conflicts, something might come out of it. So, for example, if conflict arose because of communication issues, you could provide reactive training. It could be reiterate internal policy, appropriate communication, remind staff of importance of remaining professional, and encourage verbal or face-to-face communication to prevent issues associated with written or email communication. So there's lots of different avenues where conflict can occur. It can be just the way somebody's emails come across. It could be, as I said, age thing, where what might be funny to somebody else might not be to another. So we need to implement preventative measures in the first place and make sure intervention is effective, and make sure that we have lots of preventative measures in place. So things like, as I spoke about earlier on, things like job role changes. If you identify at an early stage that people are stepping on one another's toes, for example, just discuss changing what they do, the job roles or shifts. And also, for example, training of staff when it comes to equality, harassment, bullying, training people, their attitude, the way they conduct themselves, the way they are with people, and maybe put them on awareness courses with equality and diversity to help them work with other people. You might even provide training conflict management, so they can handle a confrontational behaviour appropriately. It could be something about workplace changes. It could be that the workforce, or they're too crushed together, it's causing stress and animosity. You know, simple things like air conditioning, heating can cause people to be unhappy within the workplace, poorly lit, isolated. There's lots of different things can cause conflict. And at the end of the day, you and I, we're all human here listening today. We all work in places and we spend an awful lot of time there. I want to get on with everybody, and I'm sure you do too. I want to make it a happy place to work in, because we spend an awful lot of time at work, and we want to make it a happy place to be in work, and we want to get happy and get on with everybody that's there. Fortunately, we're not going to see eye to eye with everybody, but let's not just leave conflict dangling. Let's have face-to-face communication, so it's preventative in the first place. So is mediation suitable? What is mediation? So mediation is a completely voluntary and confidential form of resolving workplace conflicts. So ACAS recently said that they're bringing in a policy on age, so a guide on age discrimination, and I've seen quite a bit of this, actually. I've seen in the workplace where people might exclude people of a certain age. They might say things. So again, it's identifying the training we need within our workplaces to encourage people to know what is discriminatory. So anyway, mediation, what it involves is a partial mediator helping parties reach an agreement on a workable solution. And ACAS do say is that a mediator is usually trained. So mediation suitable? You know, I don't know if you have a mediation policy, but we do have one on the CIPD HR reform. Use your mediation policy to when this process will be used, and it is usually used to resolve a colleague conflict, to rebuild relationships after a formal dispute has been held. Now, some people out there will forgive, but they don't forget. Some people out there don't forgive and they hold a grudge. We need to deal with this, because this will just bubble and bubble and bubble. We need to deal with it. And this is where mediation is fantastic. So resolve conflict, to rebuild relationships after a formal dispute, to address personality clashes, communication issues, address, it's not to address a formal grievance or to investigate a discrimination or harassment allegation. So let's remember that. So is mediation suitable? Can it only be used where both parties have agreed to it? It's to help gain agreement, fully explain the purpose of mediation and how it will take place. And this creates this understanding that may help gain agreement. So is mediation suitable? What I'm showing you on these slides is the letter that you can have on the CIPD HR form to invite people, an employee, to a mediation meeting. So it talks about writing further to our conversation, and you outline several issues and concerns that you had. During our discussion, you indicated that you did not wish to exercise your right to raise a full grievance. However, you did express a wish for your concerns to be addressed by means of informal mediation. So with this in mind, I'm writing to confirm that an informal mediation meeting will be held on, tells you the date, and if these arrangements are not suitable, please let me know as soon as possible. You're impressed I can read something as small as that, aren't you? So it talks about that, and then it's strictly confidential. It's a condition of mediation process that you agree not to discuss the content of the meeting with anyone unless it's mutually agreed during the meeting. So what this is saying is we're taking this seriously. We want to make your work life happy, and we're using mediation, that letter, to invite parties to a mediation meeting to ensure they understand the process. We're allowing conflict to be explained. We are discussing the issue, and we're going to agree a workable resolution, and ultimately that is what we want. So where mediation is successful, create a signed mediation agreement which outlines the agreed solution. We need this as defence if anything comes about from this in the future, to show as an employer, as HR, it's getting harder, isn't it? But we'll never be out of work, will we? And basically what it is showing us is that we've done something. We've listened to our staff. We've been preventative and proactive and reactive, ensuring both parties understand their responsibilities to following the agreement. Remind the parties of the confidential nature of mediation and any discussions that took place. This is really important. We don't want people then going gossiping outside of this mediation meeting, creating more hassle and opinions in the future. So where mediation is unsuccessful, confirm that no mutually agreed solution was reached, remind employees of the right to raise a formal grievance, and ensure both parties understand the confidential nature of mediation and any discussion that took place. Remember, you should all have a written grievance procedure within your handbook that people have that can go through. So, and what you have in the grievance is, you know, again, you should have a clear grievance procedure in place which must be easily accessible for all employees and be part of your employment handbook and contract. So, and what you have in a grievance procedure, first of all, again, is step-by-step guides. They are available, I keep saying, on the website, the IPD HR Inform, but one, again, is an informal route. When the complaint is made, ensure line managers speak to the employee and look for a solution. 2, ask the right questions. Start by exploring what becoming an employee wants. This focuses on working towards a solution. And then 3, moving to the formal route. You can't resolve the issue, the employee must put it in writing to take it forward. This is really what you would have in grievance procedure. And it would be, again, I would recommend you seek advice. 5, representing your company. And then 6, establishing the facts. So carrying out an investigation and collect all relevant evidence and speak with other employees. And then you have your grievance interviews at number 7. And then 8, keeping records. So make sure every step must be in writing, including meetings, invites, and decisions made. Always minute every single meeting you have. 9, communicate. And then prepare appeals. That's for your grievance procedure, but hopefully we won't get to that particular section. So ignoring workplace conflict can lead to issues becoming entrenched and harder to resolve. I have done mediation work, and I've done it, and some of the cases that I've been involved in were later on. They've come out of the workplace, and I've been involved in the mediation. They're still in work, but they're both suspended on full pay, for example. Ultimately, when it's not handled correctly, which is when I've stepped in, the 2 parties concerned, it's got out of hand. It's got harder to resolve, and then ultimately the 2 people are after just loads of cash. So we need to nip it in the bud. We need to deal with it properly and effectively right at the very beginning, and that goes back to your policies, your procedures, and your training. And then the next step is the formal grievances being raised and other team members being detrimentally affected, the risk of breach and the implied term of mutual trust and confidence. So even if conflict isn't ignored, handling this badly could lead to further issues. That's what I said. You know, that's what I've seen when I've stepped in mediation, is that the manager's not known how to deal with it. And then it's broken down the trust in the manager. And it breaks down the relationship between the employee and their employer or manager, and the risk of a constructive dismissal case, which can cost ever such a lot of money. We've got to do this right. So dealing with workplace conflict, a good manager will recognize that conflict is inevitable. It's going to happen. It's an everyday part of the workplace environment. Take steps to act on conflict quickly and seek to resolve this. So we are going to focus on the key problem, which is leading to the conflict. Let's not get carried away on other things. Be open to reaching a workable solution. Be empathetic with employees' feelings, and seek to take wider learnings from the conflict issue. So we might learn from this. We might actually hold our hands up and say, you know what, we could have done more as an employer, as HR, and now we are going to do something about that. So I hope today, you know, I have helped you in some way. There are different types of alternative dispute resolutions. There's informal discussions, there's mediation, there's conciliation and arbitration, settlements, agreements, all sorts of stuff. What we need to look at is, you know, actually nipping in the bud the different types of conflict at work in the first place, and, you know, understanding that there are different personalities in work, there's different types of working, how we communicate, what resources are available, what support we give, how organized is your workplace, what are your management like, and what is our understanding for things like discrimination within the workplace. So I just think that for you, what you should be doing is a conflict risk assessment. Don't ignore any complaint, no matter how small it is. Speak, do surveys, have an open door attitude within the workplace. Promote any differences people have, you know, talk about discrimination, talk about attitudes, lifestyles. You know, people might, you know, the thing is, we have lots of different ages. You may find that people frown upon people's lifestyles. The older generation frowning on the younger generation, or the younger generation frowning on the older generation and their lifestyles. Jealousy can happen. So how about becoming a mediator and listen actively, stay calm, and be supportive ultimately. I hope today you found this interesting, and I've just done an overview on this. If you want more in-depth information on this, remember, available to you on the CIPD HR Inform are the following that you've been reading as I'm speaking: employment law resource on conciliation and mediation, how-to guide on managing and hearing a grievance, a mediation policy, letter to invite an employee to a mediation meeting, other letters, case study, a checklist on handling employee grievances, and a flowchart on carrying out a grievance hearing. There's lots of resources there. I haven't got time to answer any questions, but as you know from previous webinars, we do get to your questions and we do communicate them back to you and respond effectively. However, if after this webinar you would like to ask us questions, you'd like to know more about the CIPD HR Inform, you'd like a speaker, an event, or even a training session within your business, then really feel free to contact us at events@hr-inform.co.uk. I hope that you found this interesting, and a reminder to everybody out there, book your CIPD HR Inform demo. You can get a free 24-hour trial. Telephoners, we will be in contact anyway, but any CIPD members will save 50% from our subscriptions. My name is Amanda Chadwick, and I hope you've enjoyed today's webinar, and I hope to speak to you again soon. It's goodbye from me. Thank you very much for listening to me today. Goodbye.